Hello and welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast with your host, metaphysician, Reiki master, and hypnotherapist, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week, we will discover teachings, tips, and tools to radiate your best life ever with practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate?
Hello and welcome back to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. Today we radiate awe with Dr. Michael Amster, who is one of the co-authors of a book that's new out, The Power of Awe: Overcome Burnout and Anxiety, Ease Chronic Pain, Find Clarity and Purpose in Less than 1 minute per day. Hello, Dr. Amster.
Hey, Christy, it's such an honor to meet you. Thank you so much for inviting me on the show today. And I'm really honored also to meet your listeners.
Oh,
And we're going to have an awesome conversation about awe. So we're going to radiate awe out to the world today.
I love that. I love that. So is it really so simple to overcome, what is this? Overcome burnout and anxiety, ease chronic pain, and find clarity and purpose. Is it that easy in less than 1 minute a day?
You know, it actually is. And we've done research on this at the UC Berkeley Greater Good Science Center. We had two very large, robust studies that followed about 500 participants. We had 300 primary care patients as well as 200 nurses and doctors on the front line just during COVID, struggling with severe burnout, that learned the AWE method, AWE method, that we'll talk a little bit about later in our conversation, and taught them a 21-day program that asked them just to practice 3 times a day. And the practice takes about 5 to 15 seconds to do. So less than a minute a day. We saw profound statistical significance of outcomes, such as 35% reduction of depression, which is equal to taking a pharmaceutical drug for depression, by practicing this method to experience profound moments of awe in the ordinary moments of our lives.
That's amazing. And I love that you've got the science chops to back this all up. Right. So this is actually a study that you undertook. Why did you do that?
Sure. So let me share a little bit of our story and how we came about coming up with what we call the AWE method.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been a student of meditation for probably 35 years. I got into it when I was in high school. I suffered from anxiety, particularly test-taking anxiety. I was one of these kids that wanted to be a doctor, I think probably since I was 3 years old. I always was playing doctor with my friends as a little boy. And as I went along with my education, I got to this point of having a lot of anxiety and panic attacks with taking exams, and got it worse in college. And so became a student of mindfulness, meditation, and then over time, eventually I got trained as a teacher. And I've been teaching as a chronic pain specialist, mindfulness and meditation to patients of mine for about 20 years. And I had a conversation about 4 years ago with my friend and colleague, Jake Eagle, and he's a psychotherapist and leads a spiritual community called liveconscious.com. And we both were reflecting how we've noticed that students of ours have had a really hard time cultivating a mindfulness practice. Finding time in our busy lives to meditate for 5-10 minutes a day is really hard. And it takes a lot of effort, and often people feel defeated. And I'm sure you can relate to that, right? You know, trying to slow down our monkey minds is not an easy thing to do. Focusing on your breath or on a mantra or something for 10 minutes is hard. Your mind's all over the place. So we had a conversation about what if we could come up with this ideal micro meditation practice and what that might look like. And I actually came up with this term, microdosing mindfulness. So the idea of having these microdoses of mindfulness. And I flew out to Hawaii, where Jake lives, and we spent a week together and we investigated what this ideal practice might be. And Hawaii, as I don't know if you've been there, Christy, or not, but it's quite beautiful with incredible colors and the oceans and rainbows, and the food and everything about it is quite awe-inspiring. And we decided, we think that this ideal practice has something to do about cultivating awe, but it actually wasn't being out in the nature of Hawaii that where I had this epiphany. It was actually while making pancakes for Jake and Hannah in their home. And I poured some batter and I just brought my full attention and I stood there and watched the pancakes turn from liquid to solid. And I don't know about you, but when I make pancakes before that time, every time I would pour the batter and then I'd walk away and I'd be making sausage or, coffee or orange juice. I was always multitasking and dividing my attention. But here I was, I stood there and I had this epiphany and this real amazing awe moment of just witnessing a pancake turn into a pancake. And from that, Jake and I deconstructed what had happened and we came up with an acronym, which is actually the word awe, AWE, and it's the 3 steps of this awe method that we'll talk a little bit about later.
Yeah.
So we decided to do some pilot studies. I took about a dozen of my patients and he did the same with his community of patients and ran them through a 21-day awe program where we taught the awe method and we followed some basic metrics and saw improvements in chronic pain, depression, anxiety, which is super inspiring. And then I tracked down Dacher Keltner, and he's the founder of the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley. And he is probably one of the most well-known researchers on the emotion of awe, really started the whole field, and told him about our research. And he said, wow, this is incredible. This is the future of mindfulness right here, because all the research that they had done before was on extraordinary awe. They had participants go on whitewater rafting trips and experience awe in the outdoors, or they would sit in a flight simulator and experience flying over Yosemite with goggles on. But no one had thought about the idea of studying ordinary moments of awe that can be had anytime, any place, anywhere. And so the pandemic started right after I had this conversation with Dr. Keltner. And I reached back out to him and said, hey, let's do an emergency study. People are sheltering in place, depression skyrocketing, anxiety's out of control, people are lonely, doctors and nurses are super stressed out, over 50% burnout in national surveys of doctors at the time. So we decided to go ahead and do a national study, and we recruited over 300 primary care patients and 200 doctors and nurses, and we taught them this method on Zoom and followed metrics, did daily surveys and long-term metrics, and saw incredible results. For example, we saw a 35% reduction of anxiety in both groups. We saw about 22%, 23% reduction in depression. Anxiety was 23%, depression was about 35%. Decreases in loneliness were statistically significant. Decreases in physical pain, other physical health symptoms, decreases in burnout, which was huge for the doctors and nurses, of course, and also improvements in well-being and other wellness measures were all across the board showed improvement.
That's amazing. It's
Yeah.
needed during that time. I remember that time, the medical community was just completely on edge. They were so burned out and very needed. Now, let me ask, what is your field of specialty that what area do you practice medicine?
Yeah, so I'm double boarded. I did my first residency program in family medicine. And then I'm also subspecialized and did a fellowship in extra training in anesthesia pain management. So I am what's called the pain management specialist, and that's been the bulk of my career, has been working with people with chronic pain And I I really resonate with the work you do through Radiate Wellness. I'm
Yeah.
very attuned to the mind, body, and spirit. And I think that's actually why I chose the field of pain management, was because I recognize there's such an important interface between the mind, body, and spirit. And um, so I've always been very holistic in my orientation. And I think part of the healing journey for people is always about finding different modalities that resonate most effectively with their nervous systems and their spirit so they can really optimize their healing. And in our book, The Power of Awe, we have a whole chapter that's dedicated to talking about what it is that creates healing for people. And we're part of a think tank group of researchers, neuroscientists, psychologists that discuss about the importance of feeling safe and our nervous systems feeling um, able to rest and digest and relax and really be in a, I guess, what many people would call a parasympathetic state
Right.
to promote healing. So what's really special as part of our work and our research is that the awe method and awe as an emotion puts us in that profound state of healing, of that parasympathetic healing state, as well as affecting the nervous system in other profound ways.
Hmm. And how does this work on the nervous system?
So, great question. A few ways. So, first of all, we know that the emotion of awe, and when you do this awe method that we'll talk about a little bit later,
Hmm.
it stimulates the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is the master computer of the autonomic nervous system. So in our nervous system, we have a conscious part of our nervous system. Let's say you want to move your hand to write a letter to somebody or type. You're consciously choosing to do that. But there's a whole part of our nervous system that works automatically that we don't have to have any consciousness to operate. When we're asleep, our heart keeps beating, we keep breathing, and that's all from our autonomic nervous system. So the vagus nerve, when we stimulate it, it puts us in that rest and repair state where our heart rate slows down, our blood pressure slows down, and we're able to build up tissues and nourish ourselves in profound ways for healing. The emotion of awe also decreases activity of what's called the default mode network. And this is the part of the brain that is that monkey mind, that ruminating, daydreaming, racing mind. You probably have heard that scientists believe that our mind maybe has 70,000, 80,000 random thoughts throughout the day, and that's that default mode network. And what happens when we practice awe is that part of our brain slows because we're bringing our full attention to something that we appreciate, value, or find amazing. um, and another way in which the emotion of awe, which I think is one of the most powerful and profound ways in which it helps and it impacts our nervous system as well as our body in general, is that studies have been done at UC Berkeley on different positive emotions where they measured people's blood levels of inflammatory uh, factors. They're called inflammatory cytokines. Cytokines are these intracellular protein molecules that communicate between cells. So when we're under a threat from an infection, like a bacteria or a virus, and we need to create a fever to fight that infection, we secrete in different types of cells these inflammation factors that then recruit our immune cells, like our white blood cells, to go after and fight the infection. So they looked at different positive emotions like gratitude, generosity, love, and awe. And they found that awe was actually the only positive emotion that statistically significantly was dropped from that would drop inflammation in the body. And so inflammation is really, we now understand more and more, is at the root of almost all chronic illness. Inflammation is at the root of inflammatory conditions like Sjogren's disease and lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. It's at the root of heart disease, vascular disease. It's at the root of diabetes, is at the root of cancer, and also depression is considered a neuroinflammatory condition. So when we practice awe, and these micro moments of awe that we talk about in our book and we've studied, we lower inflammation in our body, which is profound and powerful. So this is just a few of the ways. There's even a few more, but I think I'm giving you an overview that's pretty deep in terms of how awe works in our physiology.
That's amazing. Now, when you're talking about awe as an emotion, can you define that for our audience?
Sure. So I would bring to mind, and I'm going to ask you, Christy, can you share a moment of extraordinary awe that you've had in your life? Maybe have you
Oh,
been to some place like the Grand Canyon, or watched
yeah.
an incredible sunset, or witnessed the birth of a child?
Yes.
Tell me about one.
Just about all of the above. Let's just say the Grand Canyon, being at the Grand
Hmm.
Canyon at sunset and being at the rim and watching the sun go down and the colors, the colors, and
Yeah.
just watching the changes and the light. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And how did you feel in your body? What was that like for you, or in your mind? Can you describe that experience a little bit?
I felt my heart swell. I just felt this expansion and this peacefulness, and this, I'm not even sure how to describe it. Just this, it felt like this golden light dropping down over me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. So we define awe in our book as an emotional experience in which we sense being in the presence of something that transcends our normal perception of the world. So when you're on the edge of the Grand Canyon, you're looking out at that vastness. It just kind of blows your circuitry, right? You're not used to
Yeah,
seeing something like that
that
on a daily
magnificent.
basis. Yeah.
Right.
So scientifically, we look at awe in two ways. So in terms of defining it as an emotion that's different than other emotions. So number one is that we experience perceived vastness. And you just talked about that, a sense of expansion when you're looking out at that view. Now, you can have an external vastness from like a really wide, expansive view, but actually, more importantly, is that we're experiencing vastness within ourselves. So our sense of egoic identity, our identity to like me defining myself as Michael, or you saying I'm Christy, when we have a moment of awe, that sense of self diminishes and we experience vastness. We feel connected to, whether you want to call it God or consciousness, the universe, um, energy field, the Reiki field, whatever it is, like that you connect to the oneness that energetically binds all of us, whatever words you want to give it. So that is what awe brings out within us, is that sense of vast connection. Secondly is what's called cognitive accommodation, which means that in that moment you have in your awe moment, it kind of it's almost disorienting, and it shifts your mind out of its usual way of seeing and being in the world, and it opens you up to new ways of looking at things. So you have an awe moment, and you'll look at something like, huh, wow, how's that even possible? If you go to Yosemite and you go to see El Capitan or Half Dome, how is it possible that you have a sheer cliff of 3,000 feet of granite and it doesn't all just collapse and crumble to the ground? It's like defying gravity. How is that even possible? This is what awe does, is it scrambles our minds. So we're researching, and what we're teaching is how to have moments of awe in the ordinary. And when you have those moments of awe in the ordinary, you have a lot of power because you can choose and have them at any time, any place, and anywhere. You can have a moment of awe when you're driving and at a stoplight and look outside bring your full attention to something outside of the car, and be in awe of like a bird flying by, the clouds. Like you can be in awe of the stoplight, and like how would the world be if we didn't even have stoplights? you know
Yeah,
So
I'm a sunset aficionado, and we get some spectacular sunsets around here.
yeah, yep. And every sunset is different, right?
Right.
Like no one is the same. And so that's what's beautiful about it. As you open your lens, your eye for awe, you start to see the world in a whole new way. So people often ask me, well, how do you experience awe, and like what ways do you bring that into your life? So
Right.
when I teach this to people, I recommend that they do what's called habit stacking, which means that you bring this new habit of awe that you want to develop to something you already do. You stack it onto some habit you already do. So, for example, I make coffee. It's one of the first things I do when I get up in the morning is I make a cup of coffee. And I had this epiphany recently that when we automate things in our lives, like we use a Keurig machine to make our coffee, like we miss out on awe. Like that machine takes away people's experience of having an awe moment where if you grind coffee, that experience of grinding coffee and the aromas and or boiling water and watching water boil through in a kettle, it's just incredible and quite awesome. I use a French press, so I get to see when I pour the water in and the granules floating and the colors, and it changes. And then meanwhile, I have my soy milk that is spinning in a little frother, and it's frothing up, and like all these moments of awe to behold. And every day, even though it's the same routine, although I'll get different types of coffee, so I can kind of stimulate different flavors in my mouth, but it's yeah, it's like every time's a whole new rich experience. It's like I've never done this before when you have the lens of awe.
Right.
Everything becomes new and fresh as though it's the first time.
And yet I know many people who go through on autopilot and miss all of the amazing things. Why do we do that?
Well, it's just because um I think of awe, it's a muscle that you need to develop.
Hmm.
And in our current world of extreme amount of distraction of technology, our devices that are always on us, we overwork ourselves. We're just stretched to the almost to the edge of cracking, and we are disconnected from awe. Americans, they've done surveys of looking at different cultures and people around the world, and we are the most awe-starved culture on the planet,
It's
which is so
measurable?
sad.
Wow.
Yes, measure it. Yeah, there is a questionnaire. We have it in our book actually.
Mhm.
It's looks at one's natural disposition to experiencing moments of awe, and there's a score that comes out, and you can measure your awe, just your predisposition to having awe in your life. And what we know is from doing the awe method and working on cultivating awe that I don't want to say the word improves, because it's not like necessarily like there's a flaw here, but you start to develop the ability to have more awe in your life and more spontaneous awe, which is beautiful. I mean, the idea behind this is that you start building a regular practice up consciously, and then unconsciously you'll start to have moments of awe all throughout your day that will bubble up. I really like this quote by Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, and he says, our goal should be to live life in radical amazement. Get up in the morning and look around at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed.
Hi there. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to tell you about a very special event that we have coming up with Radiate Wellness. This is the Inner Journey, Discovering Your Soul's Path 3-day spiritual and metaphysical retreat. This is an immersive experience, March 31st to April 2nd. So it's all inclusive. So that's lodging, meals, snacks, and wonderful workshops. So what are the workshops that we have coming up? First, we're going to be doing a sound healing concert with Susan Walter, who's a visionary angel artist and angel communicator who paints beautiful angel portraits. And she'll be leading us in a sound healing concert with crystal bowls. And there will be energy work alongside that sound healing. We're going to be doing a group QHHT session, that is quantum healing hypnosis technique, with me, Christy. And we will visit one past life and one potential future life, just to look at the arc of your soul and your soul's purpose. We will also be connecting to your inner self and your intentions for 2023. We'll be doing energy workshops and energy healing workshops. And we will do a meditation to meet your angel or angels and learn how to work with them. We will also have a special guest from Switzerland, from Geneva, Switzerland. Mary Jane Stodeman will be joining us to talk about your soul's journey with astrology. So our leaders for this retreat are myself, Christy Clemens Hoffman, Kathy Lesmeister, who's another one of our wonderful practitioners with Radiate Wellness, Susan Walter, who is a Kansas City-based visionary artist and sound bowl enthusiast, as well as Mary Jane Stodeman, Touro master and astrology teacher in Switzerland. So all of these events are all covered under one price. And there is an early bird special. You can save $100 on this retreat until January 31st, 2023. And then regular registration continues afterward. And again, that will be a $100 discount up until January 31st. You can find out more information and register at radiatewellnesscommunity.com. It's right at the top of the homepage. Hope to see you there.
Did you know that Radiate Wellness is more than just a podcast? That's right. We're also a comprehensive holistic wellness practice. Find out about our services, practitioners, and upcoming events at radiatewellnesscommunity.com. While you're there, visit our podcast page to read more about our great guests and even donate to the podcast. If you like our podcast, you can help in other ways as well, like subscribe or follow us wherever you're listening right now. Tell a friend, a family member, or a coworker about the great content you find here. And if you wouldn't mind, please give us a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, or a positive review. Sounds like a small thing, but it really helps. You might like to know about our Facebook communities while we're at it. We have a free community, the Radiate Wellness Community, on Facebook for news and great free content. Our subscribers group is Radiate U, as in the letter U, but also, well, you. There you'll find curated replays of past classes, guest interviews, and more. And now, back to our podcast and back to our guest.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's amazing. I mean, it's true that the more you experience them, it's like any more, I kind of crave it.
Well, what we know from our research is that the more you dose awe, the more you benefit from it. So we know there's what's called a dose response. The more times you do it throughout the day, the more benefit you have, and there's no side effects. So this is an incredible practice that changes people's lives. It's free, it's effortless. In fact, what we've learned from our research as well is that, as people try to start building an awe practice, you don't want to come at it with force. We apply force to everything in our lives. We apply force to our work, to our finances, to raising families. We're always pushing and efforting and making, it's work, it's hard. But the beautiful thing about awe is that it teaches us to be fully present and to slow down and to bring ease. You can't force a moment of awe to happen. It just happens. And in fact, if you try to come at it, you can't go to the edge of the Grand Canyon and say, come on, awe, make this happen, awe. It's, no, it's about you slow down, you bring your full attention to that moment that you're valuing and appreciating, that you find amazing right there, and that you bring your full undivided attention to. And then you wait. And then I'm talking through our process here. Attention, the A, W is a wait. So you're taking time to really witness, to be present with what you brought your full attention to. And then the E is that expansion. You take a deep exhale. And when you take that deep exhale, you stimulate your vagus nerve, which brings you to that rest state. And then the E is expansion. You want to let that moment expand, like let it really fill up your body. And I know you're an energy person, so you can think of it just filling up your aura, your energy field, and going bigger than you. It just, extends out beyond your physical body. Yeah, so in our book, we talk about, we explain details of how to do the awe method, and we offer 30 extended practices, which help people really develop a deeper, connection to the present moment and to find awe, like taking an awe shower and being in awe of the experience of a shower or a hug. I've had people who read our book get back to me and say, I had the best hug of my entire life after reading this one section of your book. And it's true, like when we bring our full attention to what we value, appreciate, or find amazing, there is a new level, a new depth of connection with yourself and with others. Awe is contagious, actually. It's a good type of contagious. It's not like a bad virus here. We're talking about when I have a moment of awe and I share my awe with you, I inspire awe in you. And when you share awe with me, you inspire awe in me. So on our website, we call a moment of awe page, and you can post your moment of awe. And you can read other people's awe. And so if I go to that page and I look at pictures someone's post or a story someone shared, it inspires awe in me. So it's such a beautiful quality about awe is that it just grows. It's like a snowball effect, so to speak, that just keeps growing and growing the more we share awe with each other.
Well, and I think the more that you experience awe and you really feel what that feels like, you might be primed to experience more. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Easier
That's
to
how our nervous
experience.
system works. Yeah,
Really?
what we bring our focus and attention towards is what then creates our perception of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, you think about there's always different ways to perceive something that happens, an event that might happen in your life, and you can look at it from the standpoint of seeing it as miraculous and awe-inspiring and wonderful, or you can look at it oppositely as not. We start our book with a quote from Einstein that says, there's two ways to live. You can live as if nothing is a miracle, or you can live as if everything is a miracle. The
Love
most
that.
beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious.
That's a beautiful quote. I love that one. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I see it as being ticklish. Like if somebody tickles you, then everything gets ticklish. And it's so easy to get tickled again. So I see the awe fact of as once we feel that awe, it's just like so much more readily available to us. At least that's how I feel.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a effortless practice that then immediately offers you a reward. So one of the neat things we've learned from our research. We had people enrolled in our study that had tried traditional mindfulness practices. And I don't know if you happen to have a regular meditation practice, but do you?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And have you ever found it difficult to sustain?
Heck
And that
yeah.
it takes effort?
Heck yeah.
Right. Have you ever beaten yourself up and been like, I feel like a failure because I can't do it?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, often, right? But then you just
hmm
get back on it. But it sounds like awe can get us back to it much easier.
Well, all we're asking you to do is to bring your full attention to something that you value, appreciate, or find amazing for 5 to 15 seconds, like basically a cycle of a breath. And we all can do that. Even if you have ADHD, we can focus on something for a breath cycle. And it's effortless. It doesn't take that sustained level of concentration that is really hard for people to do. And you get an immediate reward. You feel good, right? You feel good after a moment of awe. You don't, I've taught many hundreds of people mindfulness, and a lot of people don't feel very good afterwards. They're like, huh, I thought I'm doing this because it's supposed to help me, but I don't feel good. Right? It's not easy to
Right.
cultivate a regular mindfulness practice. So this this informal practice is really a profound um, experience for people. And we actually begin our book, we talk about it, that it's a shortcut to transcendence. So in Buddhism, which is where I've been trained as a mindfulness teacher, we talk about the state of nirvana,
Yeah.
that state of when the Buddha, becomes enlightened. And we think of the state of nirvana as being one where, time stands still or slows down. We're fully present. Our thoughts stop. We're feeling connected to the oneness, the vastness of all life, or that kind of what they call a non-duality, right? That there's no separation between me and you or the universe or God. So awe is that state that we're of nirvana. If you think about it, it brings one to a state of timelessness. And we actually know from research that when you experience moments of awe, your perception of time changes. It's time really, your perception of time slows down
Interesting.
significantly.
So the
Yeah.
theory of relativity, right?
Yeah. Times your perception, like how you,
Right.
yeah, as an individual perceives that a minute going by extends from a minute to, let's say, 3 minutes. Time expands.
Yeah.
You are thoughtless. You're in a place of pure presence, attention,
Mm-hmm.
really enjoying that moment, fully embodying it. You feel a connection to outside of yourself, to something much bigger, greater,
Mm-hmm.
and a sense of peace.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about this in the book. I won't go into full detail about it here, but there's really sort of a backstory about the philosophy and how it changes our level of consciousness when we have these moments of awe. And this is really the life's work of Jake Eagle, my co-author and friend. He has been really a pioneer in consciousness and he understanding human development. And so the awe work is really connects into his model around what he calls the 3 levels of consciousness. And when we have these brief moments of awe, we enter into that highest state. He calls spacious consciousness. It's that state of nirvana. And then when we go back into the ordinary moments of our lives, where we're like raising our kids or at work or working with clients, we can bring the residue, like the benefits of awe percolates in everywhere in our life, so that we come into every moment of life with more peace, of love, of compassion, of kindness, of connection. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Right. Now, we typically think of awe in relation to God, religion, but we can be non-secular and experience this awe as well. What do you feel the role is of God or religion and awe, if any? Or why do we feel
Well,
that with, yeah.
well, it's a great question. I mean, what comes up for me is that I think, so for us to make meaning of things as humans, we have words, right? We assign words to things that explain concepts, ideas, or explains emotions or feelings. So when someone has a moment of awe, they feel that connection to that vastness. For some people, they're going to call it God. I think that's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling connected to the creator that manifests all this beauty on this planet Earth. Some people will think of it as just calling it, if you don't believe in God per se, you might just call it, a connection to the universal field or to the energy or the universe. So um, I really think we're thinking about this. We're all talking about the same thing here. It's just that maybe we have different labels for it.
Yeah.
And whether you believe in a divine creator, whether you think of that as like a a guy on a throne up in the sky, or like a divine feminine energy or whatever,
Mhm.
it doesn't, I think these are all just what we do as humans to make sense of something that's really incomprehensible.
Mhm.
So
Well, it's
I
something
think,
that fits your
what do
bill
you
of,
think?
mhm. Well, I think it's something that fits your bill of something that's more expansive around us, something that is bigger than ourselves, something that we can completely lose ourselves in is, for many people, is that feeling of awe with God and religion. But that's my personal take on it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the AWE of your book. So can you break that down for us again?
Yeah. So the awe method, we call
Mm-hmm.
it. It's just the 3 steps. So bringing your full attention. A is attention to what you value, appreciate, and find amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The W is that pause, the wait. And I think of it often as allowing yourself, honoring yourself to be fully present and to almost marinate. I think of it like really soaking in every cell of your body, that experience. And it's a gift. You're giving yourself a gift of waiting. Gift. When someone comes to, you're walking with someone and they hold the door open for you. I mean, that feels so good to be cared for in that way. And so when we wait, when we slow down, we bring our undivided attention to something and we sustain it for a while, we're giving ourselves a gift of waiting. And then the E is expansion, letting that whole feeling fill you up, as well as a deep exhale. So you help your physiology in having an awe moment by having a deep exhale. And so in our book, again, I was sharing that we have these extended practices, and they're also available on our website. We have a lot of stuff that's free content on our website, thepowerofawe.com. And we're also teaching the 21-day program that we taught to all of our study participants online as well. And we have an evergreen course available for people to sign up if they want to do that. So
Mhm.
we're just very committed to helping people find more awe and cultivate the emotion of awe in their life, because it's such a powerful emotion, and we benefit with improvements in our physical, emotional, and spiritual health.
Yeah. Well, you've got a convert here, I have to tell you. I looked at this book, I looked at your materials and everything. I thought, well, that sounds nice. That sounds good, but I didn't really understand what the power behind this was. But no, you're absolutely right. We can either look at things as if everything is a miracle, or if that it's not. And this awe really just heightens our experience, heightens our awareness. And it sounds like it's got measurable benefits too.
Yep, exactly. As we talked about it, the more you dose awe, the more benefits you have. And I think one thing I just want to bring up that's important to talk about is this idea that we talk about in our book is this, what we call a spectrum of awe. So what I mean by that is that, so not all moments of awe are equal, and they really occur on a spectrum. So they may happen more subtle So sometimes for me, I'll just have a very subtle shift of my awareness. Uh, Something will catch my eye and I'll just feel more present for a brief moment, or um, colors shift, or sounds are more vivid or rich, tastes are more full-bodied. Um, and then other times we have what we call an orgasm, which is on the far end of the spectrum, where our whole body tingles and chills. We may start crying. We had such a great moment. Um, and like you feel energy release in your body. Your whole body can tingle.
Oh, yeah.
You might feel out of your body even. So um, it's really important to come about this with the idea of bringing your full presence. You don't want to force it. When we try to force awe to happen, it's you're going to hinder yourself. It's really a cultivation of a practice of allowing and being fully present rather than forcing something to happen.
Oh, I love that. That's wonderful.
Hmm.
I love how you worked awe into epiphany and orgasm. That's amazing.
Well, it's yeah, awe can really be attached to a lot of different phrases. I've been finding that to be true. Yeah.
Radiate Wellness is leading a retreat at the end of March at a beautiful lakeside setting. And I believe we're going to be talking a lot about awe at this retreat, because you've just given me so many wonderful ideas of how to bring the experience of awe into us. I think I had previously thought, and now I'm a convert, that either you see something wonderful and you experience it, or you don't, or maybe you don't notice, but I think we can cultivate it. And you really have given me some wonderful ideas of how to cultivate that and to
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, definitely. You can cultivate this, what we call your awe muscle, and build it up. And
Mhm.
the idea is that to go from this sort of temporary state of experiencing awe to making it a core trait of who you are.
Mm.
Imagine if if you saw the world and the miraculous all the time, just how you just vibrate a radiance of joy and wellness that you might, that's really kind of a gift, whether you want to call it a gift from God or the universe. But I want to, I know as we're getting ready to close, I wanted to read a little bit from the book,
Please.
if that's okay, because we've talked a lot about the personal benefits of awe,
Hmm.
but what's really important, and we close about this in our epilogue, is that awe is much more than just a self-help technique.
Hmm.
So the implications of awe go well beyond personal transformation. Awe touches everything, and perhaps most telling is the effect it has on others. We're wired to attune to others' behaviors and moods. Our nervous system senses the emotions of those around us. Just as being the recipient of a warm smile can lighten our mood, when we're in awe, those around us feel it too.
Mm.
Awe is contagious. And so practicing the awe method is one not so small way we can contribute to the world. In this book, we've covered how the awe method is grounded in science, and that a whole body of science supports that awe changes lives. So we have a big symbol crash ending to the power behind the simple practice of the awe method. If practiced frequently enough by enough people, a critical mass as it were, everyone would experience a significant heightened shift in consciousness. Awe changes us, and when we share our awe, we change the world. How can we be in awe of someone and physically or emotionally harm them? How can we be in awe of the natural world and destroy it? How can we be in awe of life itself and not live as if every day were a miracle? In awe, the tone of every conversation, from the personal to the political, shifts from having an agenda to being open and curious. Our conversations impact how we raise our kids, how we help our aging parents, how we treat our spouse, how we participate in community, how we mentor or supervise people, how we govern a city, and how we lead a nation. We can think of no downside to practicing the awe method because the awe is the light, the appreciation of nature and different cultures, the curious and open mind, the generous and giving soul. Even during times of darkness, these days we need awe more than ever.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that you think that is important to mention? Anything we left out or anything I didn't ask?
No, I think we filled up our cup here with a lot of awe. I think we did a terrific job on this podcast, and I'm just feeling so honored. And I've really been in awe many times I've had awe during our conversation today, and I'm been so honored and privileged to be here on your podcast today and get to meet your community. And I would love to connect with your listeners if they're interested to learn more. They can visit us at thepowerofawe.com, where we have abundance resources for free. We have a Moment of Awe page, meditations you can listen to. We're offering online courses. I'm working on providing some awe-inspired retreats and travel. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope our paths cross again.
I do too, Dr. Amster. Thank you so much. My heart just feels so full. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to the next time that we can meet up.
Radiate Wellness is an international community of holistic and alternative healers dedicated to helping you create spiritual, energetic, and physical well-being. To learn more about our practitioners, services, classes, and events, or to schedule an appointment, visit us at radiatewellnesscommunity.com.